At our daughter's graduation, I discovered an amazing secret that transformed our family forever. The gymnasium was packed, a sea of families and friends buzzing with excitement. Allison, our 18-year-old star, stood poised and ready to step onto that stage. The sun poured through the dusty windows, casting a warm glow over the smiles and lively chatter. My heart raced as I watched her, my pride swelling like the Alabama heat. She had sacrificed so much, pouring her soul into her studies while I juggled 2 jobs at the diner. Every late night and early morning felt worth it when I saw her shine, but as the principal stepped to the podium, he announced a surprise scholarship, the first hint of tension electrifying the room. The air was thick with anticipation. When the name was called and it wasn't Allison, the silence morphed into whispers, followed by gasps. I felt her moment of triumph slip away, the facade of confidence she wore beginning to crack. Why wasn't it her? The question nagged at me. She deserved this recognition. I watched as her shoulders sagged just a bit, doubt creeping in where certainty once stood. Then, just when I thought the worst was behind us, a long-buried family secret shattered the air like glass. The principal spoke of my father, a war veteran and unknown hero in our town. Everyone murmured, eyes wide at the revelation, a man who had risked everything but had been overlooked for far too long. His silent sacrifices weighed heavily in the light of truth, igniting a fire in me that I hadn't felt in years. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. My heart raced with indignation and pride. I glanced at Allison, her eyes gleamed with newfound determination. In that moment, she saw the bigger picture. Our family legacy wasn't just about her. It was about generations of resilience, about fighting to be seen. All these years, we hadn't just endured, we had a story worth sharing. The applause grew as if echoing my thoughts, filling the room with collective acknowledgement that we were all in this together. The atmosphere transformed, from one of competition to a heartwarming rally for change. I knew right then that I couldn't let our family's history remain unacknowledged. I leaned closer to Allison, whispering with a fierce urgency. Let us honor your grandfather, the real hero. Let us push for a community campaign that brings light to the hidden contributions of folks like him. She smiled, a spark ignited in her eyes, ready for what lay ahead. Could our empowerment reshape this small town? As the final speeches unfolded, I felt the weight of expectation lift. We were on the brink of something new, something bold. As the ceremony reached its climax, the question lingered in the air: how would our family's legacy shape the future of this community? Would we finally push for the recognition that generations deserved? Together, we were ready to break the silence, and hearts raced with the promise of what was yet to come. The applause faded slowly, and I could see the steam rising from Allison's excitement. A world of possibilities unfurled before us, but first, we needed a plan. As we stepped out of the gymnasium into the warm evening air, I felt the weight of the last hour's events settle on my shoulders. It wasn't just about Allison's graduation, it was about reviving a legacy, breathing life into the memories we had tucked away for too long. Walking to the car, I slipped my hand into Allison's, squeezing it tightly. This is just the beginning, honey. We can make something of this moment, something bigger than ourselves. Her eyes sparkled as she nodded. What do you have in mind? We set up a community meeting. We reach out to the veterans in town and start sharing stories. We raise awareness of all that your grandfather and others like him accomplished. The stories of the heroes who didn't wear capes but instead carried silent burdens. If people hear them, maybe they'll start to recognize their own. Allison laughed softly. You really think they'll care? It's not that they don't care, they just don't know. It's our job to show them. Your grandfather deserves to be celebrated. They all do. We've been living in his shadow, but it's time to bring that light back to the forefront. She bit her lip, a sign that she was processing everything. What if people don't want to hear it? What if they think it's all just too much? Every story matters, Allison. It could spark something in someone. If it touches just one heart, it's worth it. The words flowed from me as if I had been waiting for this moment to speak them. As I drove home, the sunset painted the sky with oranges and pinks. I could feel the shifting energy from the day settle around me like a warm blanket. Yet, amidst my optimism, doubts crept in. What if we mobilized and no one wanted to join us? What if we simply weren't heard? Later that night, with the world outside our little house dimming into stillness, I sat with Allison at the dining table. We should create a flyer, I suggested. Something that captures the essence of what your grandfather stood for. We'll add our story, too. Who knows how many others feel the same way about their loved ones? She grabbed a pen and paper, her spirit rising. I can share some local history facts and post to social media to drum up interest. If we do this right, it'll spread like wildfire. That's the spirit, I said, proud of her energy. But as we sketched out ideas, I felt a twinge of anxiety gnawing in my stomach. What if we invited ridicule instead of respect? We stayed up late, our dining table cluttered with papers and images inspired by veterans' contributions. The dreams of honoring lost heroes felt heavy in the air, mixing with the sweet scent of coffee and determination. I was more aware than ever that our mission wasn't just about recognition, it was about healing. In that moment, the future felt raw with potential. It was a journey we had only just begun, and I knew the stakes were high. What if we became a voice not just for our family but for others who had been silenced? There was something you said earlier that stuck with me, Allison remarked, breaking the silence. You said our story was worth sharing. Maybe we should dig deeper. What else don't we know about Grandpa? I shifted in my seat, excitement mingling with apprehension. You're right, there's so much I didn't ask. I only have bits and pieces. Her eyes widened, and I could see the spark of curiosity igniting. I want to know everything. Let us start talking to family, digging into old records. We'll uncover the truth together. As we sat there, planning our next steps, the urge to uncover our family's true history felt like a call to arms. We had to honor our past, but would the truth lift us or overwhelm us? This newfound quest had the power to change everything. What secrets would we uncover about my father's life? And what implications would it have for our mission of recognition? The next morning dawned clear and bright, with sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. A sense of urgency pulsed through the air, electrifying our plans. I brewed a pot of coffee, the rich aroma filling the room and nudging us awake to the possibilities ahead. Allison rushed in, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a playful bun. What's our first move? She asked, her eyes alight with enthusiasm. We should start with family, I suggested, pouring steaming coffee into 2 mugs. Let us go see Grandma. She might have more stories about Grandpa than we ever realized. Allison nodded eagerly, taking her mug with both hands. I bet she'll have something. She always talks about him, but it's usually the same few memories. As we drove to Grandma's house, excitement twined with anxiety in my chest. What if we found something startling? Something we weren't ready to face? But there was also that flicker of hope, a longing to truly understand the man my father had been. Pulling into her driveway, I felt a wave of nostalgia wash over me. This old house, with its fading paint and overgrown garden, held years of laughter, tears, and family gatherings. I parked the car and we both stepped out, anticipation bubbling between us. Grandma answered the door with a warm smile, her apron dusted with flour. Well, look who's here, she exclaimed, pulling us into a tight embrace. What brings you two on this fine day? Hi, Grandma, Allison said, beaming. We're hoping to talk to you about Grandpa. We want to know more about his life, and the stories that made him who he was. Her brow furrowed for a moment. Oh, sweetie, I have plenty of stories. But some of them, well, I can't say they're easy to hear. Both of us exchanged glances, a silent agreement settling as we accepted the potential weight of her words. Sometimes the truth churned heavy, but we were ready. Grandma led us to the den, a cozy space adorned with family photos and old memorabilia. She settled into her favorite armchair, her gaze wandering to the framed pictures of her late husband on the wall. "Your grandfather was quiet but had a strength about him," she began, her voice thick with emotion. As the stories flowed, I realized how much we had underestimated those moments of silence. These tales were woven with the struggles he faced during the war, but also the love he carried home, a love that spilled over into how he raised his family. "He wrote letters," Grandma said, her fingers tracing an invisible line in the air. "Letters filled with hope and worry. They're stored in the attic, if you'd like to see them." "The attic?" Excitement thudded in my chest. "Yes. Please." I felt a rush of eagerness mixed with trepidation. Would those letters reveal sides of my father I had never known? What emotions would be etched in his words? Allison leaned in, her eyes wide. "We have to read them. They might hold missing pieces of the puzzle." After spending hours in Grandma's company, awkward memories turned to shared laughter and tears. Each story deepened our understanding of Grandpa, reminding us of the fragile threads connecting past to present. Later, as we headed home, the car filled with quiet chatter and speculated revelations. We had unwrapped a gift of insight, but with it came a haunting question: would the truths we uncovered be more painful than anticipated? What awaited us in the attic? Would we be prepared for the real legacy of my father and the stories that had shaped our family? The drive home was a whirlwind of thoughts. The weight of Grandma's words lingered in the air, a promise of something deeper waiting to be unearthed. I brushed my fingers against the steering wheel, tapping a rhythm as my nerves danced with curiosity and fear. "What do you think we'll find?" I finally asked Allison, breaking the silence that had settled in the car like a shroud. "I don't know," she replied softly, her voice tinged with excitement. "But if those letters are anything like Grandma said, they could change everything." Her words echoed in my mind. Change was always lurking beneath the surface, ready to reveal itself at the most unexpected moments. Once we arrived home, the house felt both familiar and strange. It was a sanctuary, yet there was an unnameable urgency that pulled at my insides, urging me towards the attic. I could almost hear the letters calling out, whispering secrets only my grandfather knew. "We should go up tonight," I suggested. The sun was setting, casting soft shadows through the windows, bathing the living room in a warm glow. "Okay, but let us grab a flashlight." "I don't want to trip over anything," Allison said with a laugh, her smile reassuring me that we were in this together. We rummaged through the junk drawer, hunting for a flashlight. Eventually, we found an old one, batteries from who knows when. I pressed the button, it flickered before steadying, illuminating the path ahead. The attic door creaked open, a dusty scent wafting down like a forgotten memory. As we climbed the narrow stairs, the air turned cooler, a contrast to the warmth below. Each step echoed, reminding us that we were entering an unknown world. Allison reached the top first. "Wow," she breathed, eyes wide. "It's like a treasure chest. Boxes piled high, their corners worn and fragile. Old suitcases hinted at stories untold." My heart raced as we sifted through them, uncovering echoes of the past, old clothes, forgotten toys, and photographs of a life before ours. Then, in a corner, we found a box labeled letters. My breath caught in my throat. "Here it is," I whispered, excitement bubbling as I pulled the box closer. But as I opened it, a sudden chill wrapped around us. The letters were neatly stacked, yellowed with age. A weight settled over the entire room. Allison pulled a letter from the top, her fingers trembling slightly. "What if they reveal things we didn't want to know?" She voiced the fear we both felt. "What if they bring us closer to understanding him?" I countered, my pulse quickening. With a deep breath, Allison began to read aloud. The words flowed through the air, drawing us into my grandfather's world. The letters were filled with vivid emotions, capturing moments of joy and unspoken pain. Each sentence peeled back layers of who he was: a soldier, a husband, a father grappling with love and sacrifice. As we read on, I felt myself being pulled into the past, each word stitching tighter the connection we had to a man we'd never fully known. The stories began to reflect the struggles of our own lives, fears echoed in his ink, tears pricked at my eyes as I realized how much of his journey mirrored my own. But then, we stumbled upon a letter that felt different. The ink was smudged, and the writing rushed. I could feel a shift in the room, as though the air itself held its breath. "Wait," I said, steadying my hand as I reached for it. "What does this one say?" Just as I started to read, the floor creaked loudly beneath us. Both of us jumped, and I froze, heart pounding. Was it just the house settling, or something more scared lurking in the corners of our family's history? "Did you hear that?" Allison whispered, her eyes wide. Something deeper was waiting to come to light. Secrets buried in the walls of both the attic and our hearts. What was my grandfather hiding? And would we be ready for whatever truth awaited us? As I took a deep breath, determined to read the letter, I couldn't shake the feeling that what we uncovered next would change everything. I carefully unfolded the letter, the paper crackling under my fingertips. The words were scrawled in a hurried, almost frantic script, as if my grandfather was trying to get them down before time slipped away. I glanced at Allison, her eyes glued to me, mouth slightly agape with anticipation. "My dearest Mary," the first began, my voice barely above a whisper. The room felt tense, charged with expectation. With every hesitant sentence, the atmosphere thickened. The letter seemed to breathe the burden of secrets into the dusty attic air. My grandfather wrote with a vulnerability I had never imagined, laying bare pieces of his heart and soul, emotions I was only now beginning to comprehend. As I read on, the letter revealed a love affair, a relationship that existed outside the boundaries of family and tradition. He described moments of passionate connection, each detail tinged with longing and regret. It was both beautiful and painful, a testament to the complex nature of love that hid behind the facade of familial duty. "What?" Allison's voice trailed off, leaving the question hanging in the attic darkness. We locked eyes, the enormity of this revelation hitting us like a gust of wind. "I didn't know," I breathed, shaking my head slowly. "He lived this whole other life." "Do you think Grandma knew?" Allison asked, her brow furrowed. It was a question that sent a fresh wave of unease through me. "I don't know, but it makes me think about everything. The choices he had to make, the price he paid." I felt my heart hammering in my chest as I processed what this meant for my family. Just then, another creak echoed through the attic. It felt louder this time, as if whatever was hidden in these spaces was growing restless, desperate for release. I shuddered. "Maybe we should stop," I suggested hesitantly, not wanting to stumble onto more hidden truths, yet knowing we were teetering on the edge of something monumental. "No," Allison said, determination shining in her eyes. "I need to know more. We can't just leave it like this." With a deep breath, I turned the page, revealing even more letters beneath the one I had read aloud. A mix of dread and intrigue filled my senses as I picked up another, trembling slightly as I opened it. This one spoke of a choice, one that would haunt him. "I had to choose between everything I knew and the love that set my soul ablaze," he wrote. The poignant honesty of his emotions washed over me like cold water. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I realized this letter was the key to understanding more than just him. It was a mirror reflecting our own struggles, the way we loved, the sacrifices we made, the burdens we carried for the sake of others. As I continued to read, the air around us felt charged, heavier with unspoken fears and connections. The reality that our family legacy was not as clear-cut as we believed was unsettling and liberating all at once. With each letter unveiled, the room began to shift. Dust motes danced like ghosts celebrating forgotten stories from the past. I finally understood why my grandmother kept these secrets guarded. "Everything is changing," I murmured, realization sinking deep into my bones. And just as I felt we were about to uncover the crucial truth that would weave our family history together, the distinct sound of a door slamming echoed from somewhere below, jolting us out of our reverie. "Did you hear that?" Allison's voice shook as she glanced toward the attic door. Panic flickered in her eyes. "What was that?" My heart raced. Had we disturbed something that should have stayed buried? As we shared an anxious look, the exploration of my grandfather's past began to feel intertwined with our fate. What other truths lay waiting to be born into the light? The weight of the moment hung heavily between us, a palpable charge of uncertainty and fear, as I gripped the final letter in my hand. Would we find strength in this journey, or would the revelation split us apart? And would the next secret unravel everything we thought we knew about our family? I could hardly breathe, and the culmination of it all made me wonder what else was hiding, waiting to be discovered. The attic felt suddenly small, the shadows thickening like a fog wrapping around us. I could hear my heart thumping loudly in my ears, each beat echoing the tension between the unspoken secrets and the weight of the revelations laid bare before us. Maybe it was just the wind, I suggested, even though I didn't believe it myself. I tightly clutched the letter, as if it were a talisman, trying to ward off whatever unseen force was at play. I glanced at Allison, searching her face for reassurance, but all I found was a mix of curiosity and fear. Or maybe someone is looking for us, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. The idea of being discovered up here, rifling through family secrets, ignited a spark of panic. But I couldn't ignore the urgency of what I was holding. The history of our family was unraveling, and it was too late to back away now. I took a deep breath, willing myself to focus. With the fear that we would never return to this moment, I opened the next letter. The delicate paper felt frail beneath my fingers, but I felt compelled to read on. Mary, my love. The first words struck me like a lightning bolt. The letter unfolded like a story in its own right, another chapter of my grandfather's secret life. He poured out his soul into every line, a passionate confession of forbidden love, interlaced with the agony of choice. To love someone with such intensity, yet bound by duty, it is a paradox I can no longer bear, he wrote. Each sentence drew me deeper into his world, where love collided with loyalty, pleasure tangled in pain. Suddenly, I noticed a creasing along the edge of the page. There was something more: hidden notes, clumsy sketches of dreams once held. I flipped to the back of the letter, my breath catching as I discovered a line scratched hastily under the passage I had just read. But what will it cost me? My chest tightened. Questions raced through my mind like wildfire. What did he mean by that? What had he sacrificed? I could hardly swallow as I glanced at Allison. Her eyes shone with the same mix of wonder and horror that mirrored my own thoughts. I think he might be talking about Grandma, Allison said slowly, her voice thick with emotion. Do you really believe she had no idea? After all this? I whispered, the doubt knotting in my stomach. I don't know, she replied, almost breathlessly. But if she didn't, what kind of life did they build together? A heaviness settled over us, the realization of how love could transcend, yet unravel entire families. Just then, a heavy thud reverberated from below, almost like footsteps. Our hearts skipped in unison as we exchanged glances, shock etched across our faces. Whatever haunted these walls was climbing its way closer, fueled by secrets long concealed. Should we risk it? Allison asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Or should we leave before it gets worse? It was an impossible question, a tug-of-war between the past and present. On one hand, there was fear, a very real sense of danger. On the other was the burning need to understand my grandfather's choices, my grandmother's silence, the thread of love that could reshape what we thought we knew. Whatever is down there, it will find us, I finally said, my resolve solidifying. We can't run from this. Just one more letter, Allison. Then we'll decide. As I turned to the last envelope resting in the dim light, the darkened corners of the attic felt like they were holding their breath, waiting. I couldn't shake the feeling that this would be the moment everything changed. The air vibrated with anticipation, and I realized it wasn't just our grandfather's past we were about to confront. It was our own truths waiting for us like shadows ready to spring to life. What had my grandfather hidden? And what awaited us at the bottom of the stairs? I peeled open the final envelope, my fingers trembling as I caught the scent of aged paper and ink, a remnant of a time long past. The moment felt monumental, as if the weight of my entire lineage rested in my hands. I couldn't help but feel that somehow, this letter held the answers to questions that gnawed at my insides and echoed in my heart. Are you ready? Allison whispered, her eyes wide and shining with a mixture of excitement and dread. I could hardly tell which emotion was swallowing the other. Before I could respond, I unfolded the letter with great care, revealing the familiar, flowing script that had become a haunting echo of despair and love. I read aloud, the words trembling on my lips. Mary, when the autumn leaves fall, I shall venture to our secret place. I have made my decision. I hope you can forgive me. A chill raced through me. This wasn't just a letter about love. It hinted at an impending betrayal. I encountered phrases like a choice I never wished to make and the promise of what could never be. The more I read, the more I felt the air grow thick with unspoken truths. Does he mean? I faltered, glancing at Allison, whose pale face mirrored the tension ballooning inside me. He leaving her? She whispered. My gut tightened. These letters were sketching a narrative of love and pain that intertwined like the roots of ancient trees. But what about the life they built together? How could he just? I couldn't finish the thought. It felt as if I were unearthing some essential part of my family's soul-shattered history too tragic to bear. As I continued reading, I noticed the words growing frantic. I must leave, for your sake, for the sake of our children. They deserve the world, and I cannot grant it to them under false pretenses. A lump lodged in my throat. My grandfather had felt forced to exit a life he had built, possibly leaving my grandmother alone to navigate the pain of his absence. How had we never known this? We have to find out what happened next, I said, urgency seeping into my voice. Suddenly, the attic door creaked loudly, disrupting the heavy silence. Startled, we froze. My heart raced, dread crept back in, the promise of danger slithering closer. Had someone overheard us? Did they know we were up here, digging into the family's past? Let us be quick, Allison urged, peering into the dim light that flickered with ominous shadows. I hastily scanned the last lines. I hope you remember me for the love we shared, even when the world forgets. Until we can meet again, forgive me. The sense of loss hung thick in the air as I folded the letter away, my mind racing. Lost love, unfulfilled dreams, and heartache wound around the fabric of our family. It was a legacy that could not be buried. We took a breath, standing on the precipice of discovery, only an old house and its secrets bearing down on us. The stepping stones of a decision loomed ahead, stretching back to the questions I had long avoided and those I had yet to ask. Do we confront our family about this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What choice do we make now, knowing what we do? Allison's eyes glinted with resolve, yet uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Maybe it's time to find out who my grandma really was and what really happened between them. And just like that, before we could discuss it further, a shadow crossed the threshold of the attic stairs behind us. A figure lingered, the outline obscured in the dim light. At that moment, we were confronted by the reality of a past refusing to remain hidden. Who's there? I called out, my voice firm but the tremor of fear evident. Allison's grip tightened on my arm. The air thickened with anticipation, and whatever was waiting in the dark was ready to expose the truths we had only begun to unravel. What awaited us next? Would the truth bring us closer together or tear us apart? The figure stepped closer, the dim light revealing the unmistakable features of an older woman. It took me a moment to register who she was, but when I did, a rush of shock washed over me. There stood my grandmother, her expression unreadable. I told you to stay away from the past, didn't I? Her voice broke the silence like a sharp crack of thunder. Allison gasped, her eyes darting between me and the unexpected visitor. My heart raced. How could she be here? Grandma? I stammered, grappling for the right words. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, she shot back, a mixture of anger and hurt flashing in her gaze. This isn't a place for you. It never was. We're just trying to understand, I pleaded, my voice trembling. We found these letters? She interrupted, stepping fully into the light. You found letters? This is all I need, another generation trying to dig up a past that should remain buried. Allison moved slightly to the side, her eyes wide with confusion. You don't have to hide from it anymore. It's time to face the truth. My grandmother's face softened for a moment, then hardened again. Truth? You think the truth brings anything but pain? You don't know what you're asking for. You could help us understand, I said, taking a brave step forward. We need to know why he left, why he made that choice. That letter, it was filled with so much sorrow. The anger faded from her brow, replaced by a flash of something softer, almost like regret. Sorrow is just the beginning of it, she whispered, her voice cracking. The world isn't as black and white as you think. I could feel the air around us thickening with the heavy burden of unspoken memories. It was as if the very walls of the attic had absorbed the secrets through the years. Please, Grandma. Don't shut us out, I urged, my heart aching to bridge the gap of silence that had hovered like a ghost between us. This affects all of us. We deserve to know what happened. Some stories need to stay in the past, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. For your own good. Your good or ours? Allison questioned, the challenge in her tone undeniable. With that, my grandmother's facade cracked. She glanced down, her fingers trembling. You really want to know? You want to take on the burden of family secrets? Yes, I said, my resolve steadying. We do. For the first time, she looked at us not with anger but vulnerability, a flicker of hope in her gaze. Then you should know. Loyalty isn't always a matter of choice. Sometimes it's a matter of survival. Before she could disappear back into the abyss of shadows, the questions tumbled out of me like leaves carried by the wind. What did he do? What drove him to that secret place? Were there others involved? With a heavy breath, my grandmother straightened herself, the weight of her history pressing down. I will tell you, but know this: discovering the truth doesn't always bring healing. Sometimes, it digs old wounds deeper. Suddenly, the door to the attic swung open wider, and the chill of the outside air rushed in, stirring the dust around us like restless spirits. My grandmother paused, staring into the dim hallway beyond, fear flashing across her face. Someone else is here, she whispered, her voice trembling now. I turned to Allison, uncertainty gripped my heart. What if it's someone who knows the truth too? With my grandmother's words hanging in the air, heavy and ominous, we faced the unknown. What had we stirred up? Are we ready for what comes next? I asked, looking into Allison's eyes, knowing this wasn't just about the past anymore. In that moment, the attic transformed into a battlefield for our family's history, and whatever was coming, I wasn't sure any of us were ready for the storm ahead. Let us find out, she said, her voice steady. As the door creaked wider, shadows danced along the walls, revealing secrets we had only begun to chase. The door swung open, revealing a tall silhouette that filled the frame. My heart dropped as I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out the figure. It stepped into the attic light and my breath caught. It was my uncle, his face hardened by years and burdened by the weight of his own choices. Why are you all here? He demanded, his voice scratchy as if pulled from a deep well of resentment. What did you dig up this time? Uncle Tom? I said, bewilderment spilling into my voice. What are you doing here? Same thing I always do, keeping my family from falling apart, he shot back. His eyes darted between me, my grandmother, and Allison. But it seems like you're all hell-bent on unraveling it. Tom, we need to talk, Grandma's voice choked with desperation, but it didn't deter him. You can't keep shutting us out. You have to let us in. He scoffed, casting a derisive glance at the letters strewn across the wooden floorboards. Those stupid letters? They won't change anything. They're just echoes of a past that should be left undisturbed. All we're asking for is the truth. Allison's voice rang clear as she stepped forward, her body tense with determination. We're willing to listen. Tom shook his head, frustration marring his features. You think the truth is what you want? It's a knife that cuts. It divides families. Just like it did with Dad. Then he turned to my grandmother, his brow furrowing deeply. If you tell them, you'd be opening a Pandora's box. I'm ready to let them in, Grandma said, her voice unwavering despite the quiver in her hands. I can't keep hiding anymore. I felt the air between us pulse with tension as old wounds threatened to seep through the cracks. I could feel tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. This was our chance to confront the past, to unearth the shadows that haunted us all. Please, just talk to us, I implored. We deserve to hear it from you. Both men and women from our family had faced the burden of our lineage, but the emotional scars often felt insurmountable. Tom looked at his mother, then back at me and Allison, his jaw clenching as if grappling with a heavy truth. You think it'll help? You have no idea how twisted things can get when everyone knows. What is it then? I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. Is it that bad? Will we regret knowing? There was a moment of silence as Tom's gaze flickered to Grandma. I dared to hope we were close to breaking through. With a shuddering breath, he said, some truths can be liberating. Others can break you. I glanced at Grandma, whose expression softened again at the reminder of what was at stake. Just then, we heard a faint creak from the hallway beyond the attic. Everyone froze, holding their breath. Another person was coming, more shadows, more secrets waiting to collide with our own. My heart raced. Who else is here? I whispered, the fear in my voice rising like a tide. We exchanged glances, the air thick with uncertainty. What if this new arrival held more devastating truths? Would we emerge shattered, or would there be healing in this confrontation? We should prepare ourselves, Allison said, her voice steady even as her eyes betrayed her anxiety. Whatever happens, we face it together, I reminded her, squeezing her hand, trying to find strength in our alliance. The door hovered slightly ajar, beckoning, and as the figure took a step forward into the light, I knew we were standing on the precipice of something monumental. Would we be ready for another truth, one more profound than before? Or would it unravel everything we thought we understood? As the figure stepped into view, the answer hung in the air, thick with tension and anticipation. The figure stepped into the attic light, and as the dust settled, we were met with the wide eyes of a woman I hadn't seen in years, my mother. She looked older, her face lined with stories untold, pain evident in the way she held herself. What are you all doing here? She demanded, her voice trembling but firm. My heart sank. The kitchen table fights, the silent treatments after each argument. We had hoped for healing, but encounters like this seemed destined to sprout conflict anew. Mom, I began, but she held up a hand, cutting me off. I don't want to hear it. Yet, something in her eyes betrayed her. This wasn't anger. It was fear. Mom, please. We're not here to upset anyone, I said, desperation tightening my voice. We found Grandpa's letters and we need to talk about the past. We need the truth. I glanced at Grandma and Uncle Tom. The room held its breath, their eyes darting between us, sensing a storm about to break. My mother's expression softened for a split second, revealing the desperate longing buried within her, longing for connection, longing for understanding. Do you really want to know? She finally asked, lowering her voice. Are you ready to face what lies behind those letters? I nodded. We're ready. We need to know what your father and you lived through, what you felt. The tension in the attic shifted to something palpable yet fragile. My grandmother leaned forward, fear and compassion mingling in her expression. This could change everything, Mary. But, it starts with trust and courage. My mother's features hardened again as she studied my determination and those of my cousin. Then slowly, she exhaled, as if releasing the weight of years spent holding her silence. There were choices, hard choices that broke us. Choices that still haunt me. With that, she moved closer, her presence softening as she began to reveal the hidden layers of our family history. She spoke of love that twisted and swirled like autumn leaves in the wind. Of heartbreak, of sacrifice. Of feeling torn between loyalty and the bright, beckoning light of choices that lay just outside the boundaries of family expectation. As my mother spoke, I could see how everything fractured and fell apart, How choices could ripple across generations, each consequence evolving into its own struggle. I felt tears pricking at my eyes as the pain of her lost dreams reverberated through my heart. It's no excuse for the secrets I kept, she continued, her voice steady but raw. But your grandfather, he lived with shadows of choices made out of fear. Those letters were his way of coping, of trying to speak when words failed in his reality. Listening to her, I realized we had been overlooking the complexity of every choice made, hidden behind the dialogues we inherited from our parents. My cousin's grip tightened around mine. We were all riding a wave of realization that bound us in an unbreakable way. But what changed, Mom? I pressed, needing to bridge the gap even further. Why didn't you ever talk about it? She swallowed hard, her gaze turning distant, searching the recesses of time. Talking meant admitting the pain. It meant facing betrayal, facing the truth that our lives were never as simple as they appeared. The room felt heavy as every word hung between us like a thread, binding our stories together. Memories surged of family struggle we never fully understood. All along, we had been so focused on the past that we forgot how to embrace our future. I thought keeping those truths hidden would protect you, she whispered finally, tears glistening in her eyes. But it only shielded us from the very thing that could heal us. Relief washed over me. Mom, we need to confront these pains together, for us and for Grandpa and all the secrets he buried. And for the first time, I saw a flicker of hope reflected in each pair of eyes. We were stepping toward acknowledgement, unearthing a legacy that needed no longer be buried. It was time to turn pain into empowerment, to transform the narrative of our family into one of healing rather than despair. As we stood there, united in shared grief and newfound strength, I knew our family was ready to face the truth. Together, we could turn the tide, reconnecting not just with our past, but with each other. We can't change the beginnings, I said softly. But we can certainly write our ending how we choose. With that, we stood hand in hand, feeling the warmth of support envelop us like a comforting embrace. The attic, once a chamber of secrets, now transformed into a testament of resilience and strength. Goodbyes to the past felt like the emergence of a new dawn. We would honor those we lost, we would live fully for those who came before. This was the rebirth of our family, and if you felt this story has connected with you even just a little, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that will inspire and connect us all. Leave a like now to nourish the algorithm and help more people find these incredible journeys. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your words matter. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Join the community, because only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.